Then Civ dropped, Jay. Civ 7.
Mm.
It's Civ. It's different, but it's Civ. It's same, you know. The different stuff, though, is big fucking different, man. It's the first time I think they've made a real... like, if you'd asked me this before I played 7, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Like, Jab and I argue about 4 and 6, all the, you know, like, there's been differences. Right. But it's been the same game. Like, every Civ game I've played, and I didn't realize this or think about it until I was playing this one, but every Civ game I've played since like 2002 has been the same exact thing. I stack as many wonders as possible. I don't really military up unless I'm forced to. And I'm trying everything in my power to prevent that from happening. I don't want to be at war. I just want to build, ideally. You know, I'll build up and murk you if you wrong me, but that's not what I want to do when I play that game.
Right.
And then other than that, I'm just stacking some sort of arbitrary number of points, either culture or science, probably. And that's what I've done for every game for 23 years. And I didn't know that until I played this one, because this one, the stat chasing shit is gone. You can still see numbers. There are some underlying math that I guess you're kind of like trying to chase, but they've introduced so much randomness and spontaneity that you have to realize is happening, acknowledge it, and then respond to, that you don't have the, even on, I mean, I'm playing on the second level of difficulty right now. And granted, I don't know everything yet, so maybe eventually you see the fucking Matrix and you can kind of start to cheese it, or, you know, in Civ form, cheese it. But I don't think so, man. There's so much randomness now that you have to adjust. You have to see what's happening and be like, whatever the fuck my objective was a second ago, that's at best got to get backburnered hardcore. Maybe just get abandoned. And I have to do this new thing to deal with this new problem and this new threat and this new set of objectives. And that's crazy for a Civ game, because that hasn't been there for any of them. And I just did not even think about that ever being a lacking thing, but it was. So, like, that's one big thing. And then another huge rejiggering they've done is they've introduced this ages system. So there's 3 ages. There's, like, antiquity, I forget what the middle one is, and then modern. And each one has, like, you can see the percentage of it going through it. So, like, and everyone is on the same thing. Like, you don't change your... It isn't just you going from modern to the second one. Like, when this gets triggered by however it gets triggered, everyone has to go through this thing. Okay. So what it really does is...
That's different.
It kind of wipes the slate clean a little bit. I mean, there's some carryover. It's not totally... You know, you keep your cities... Your military leaders, a certain number of them are kept. So, like, the experience accumulation that you have done with your commanders and the development of them and their aptitudes remain. You as a leader have some, like, attribute things that are applicable to all ages, and you can carry over and build on as you go through the 3 different ages. But a lot of the shit that's happening just gets wiped off the fucking board and like, it's jarring at first, and I can tell a lot. I mean, a lot of fucking boomers are bitching about it, like, really? That want their same thing. Just give me a new one with better graphics, you fucking pricks. Like, there's a lot of that out there for this game, and I don't agree with it. Obviously, I think based on my tonality here, but it's abrasive. And at first, it's like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, I was in a war on a game and like, the age changed, and like, I was about to take a city, and like, dude, like, it makes all your fucking, it makes a lot of your military stuff inconsequential, which I think is more accurate. Like, the kids they send to the front lines mean nothing in real world war, and it is just the fucking powers behind them that actually have the macro meaning in these things and their intentions and shit. And I think it better emulates real world war in that regard, and that's kind of heady, more so than I want to get into here. But yeah, it kind of just wipes that shit off the board. And like, yeah, I was in the middle of that war, I was about to take a city, I didn't even, you got to pay attention to that fucking counter or it'll just catch you by surprise. And like the age ends and you're like, fuck. And like, I was in, like they had came to me right before the age change, the opposition, and offered me a city to end the war. And I declined it. It's like, no, I'm taking that city. I'm about to murk a bunch of others, you motherfuckers. And I didn't think about that or know whatever the reason was. And then the age ended and the war ends. And, all those military units are gone that were where they were. So I just like didn't get that city that I could have gotten if I'd have been paying attention. So that's just one super small example of like new shit to worry about and new systems and stuff. But yeah, like the age change is fucking wild, man. And like each of the first two have this, like the last 10% or maybe 25%, I can't think of the number. But like there's this crisis era and like you have these, it's like this, I don't know, like one time, they're like major global events that like create strife. And the way that gets implemented into the numbers is like really harsh. Like you have social policies as you always have. And it's kind of like a version of that, but you're choosing, you have to choose them. You have to pick, and like the number goes up as you go further into the crisis before the age change. And they're all punitive. So like you're choosing between lesser evils that you're adding to your system. And like you have to like be like, okay, I have enough happiness to deal with that -6 happiness for every city without my civilization crumbling from fucking revolts and stuff, You have to like choose these bad things and like hope you can make it, without something terribly bad happening. And like, again, it's like more shit out of your control that makes it, I think, infinitely interesting. Harder, of course. Right. And you can turn that shit off, I guess, if you want. But yeah, the predictable flowchart of the game is gone. And you have to pay the fuck attention in a way that I've never felt like I had to pay attention playing Civ. And I think that is, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know it well enough. Maybe I will eventually bounce off of it too and get closer to where a lot of people are bitching because of the differences and it just being too not satisfying. The thing that Civ is supposed to satisfy is, I guess, the one more turn thing. I mean, I still have that. I sat and played like fucking 9, I think it was like 8.5 hours the first day. So like fucking, Amy's constantly trying to get me to play. Like it's got its hooks in us both, I think. So it's not like I am that way at all yet, but maybe that'll happen. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's just, I think it took such balls, like to take a franchise that storied and it's just the audience for it is so defined and so I know exactly what I want. Give it to me. Just give it to me. I'll pay for it. Just give it to me. And like, I think the balls it took to this in such a tectonic shift way change what the game was. It was just so ballsy of them. And like I said, I didn't know I wanted it. Something this different, but it is just so much more interesting than Civ has been for so long to me, and I didn't, it was something to give someone obviously something they didn't know they wanted is good creation of art or whatever you want to call a fucking Civ game, Yeah. So, yeah, man, fucking wild how different it is. Like the biggest, a really good analogy I thought to help simplify that ages thing. It takes the game, it goes from being just it's in a sports analogy, it goes from a single elimination playoff game or something to a best of 3 series, and like it's not exactly standalone as far as like your scoring or whatever, and winning the game. But in a lot of ways, it does turn it reshuffles the deck, and if you jump out to a big lead in the first age, that does not mean you're just going to coast the rest of the way. Shit's going to happen. Things are going to change. You have to you don't change your leader, but you do change your civilization, which I think is so much more historically accurate. Like if you have this plot of land with these cities over 3,000 years, like the same group of people are not going to be who lives there. You know what I mean? Like things are going to fall or empires are going to fall. They're going to lose ground. They're going to be taken over. New people are going to come in and settle. Like shit changes over time. And I think it's, again, just such a better representation of what this game is supposed to be representing, which is the history timeline of the world. You know what I mean? And I think that also is just so much more interesting, you know? So yeah, fucking hugely different game. I did not expect that to be like that. So pretty cool.
So you're saying I should check it out.
Should definitely check it out. And even cooler, Jay, that shit's going to be on VR by spring. Quest native VR. They're doing a Quest version of it. And yes, they'll get my $70 again, or however much they charge me then. Because in VR, again, that Per Aspera game, like the kind of the sci-fi Alpha Centauri type real-time strategy game I played a couple years ago on there was fantastic. You could it was just so much better of a UI for that type of game, like zooming in and like pointing, and it's just like it puts you in the board game as opposed to just this top-down moving things, interface. It was really cool, and I don't expect that they're offloading it to. They're not doing it in-house at Firaxis. They're offloading the VR development to a VR developer, which is very smart, of course. So they're going to make it VR it's not going to be just a VR port of a tabletop game or a top-down game. It's going to be a VR game that is Civ, so. Yeah. I was blown away by how different it was.